Welcome to the Call Guys podcast, co-hosted by Kevin Hopp and Ronen Pessar. This podcast is all about sales development and the art and science of building high-performing outbound sales teams. Tune in weekly to hear live cold calls and also to hear Kevin and Ronen interview some of the top names in sales development. Let's dive right into this week's episode and see what we can learn. Welcome back to another edition of the Call Guys podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Hopp, and with me always, my co-host, Ronen. Say what's up.
Howdy, y'all. Ronen Pessar here, and we are thrilled to introduce you to our guest this week, the better-looking Kevin, Kevin Gaither. Kevin, you want to introduce yourself briefly to the audience?
Sure. Hey, it's Kevin Gaither. Most people know me as KG. I'm the OG KG, I guess. I've been in sales and sales leadership for almost 30 years, 8 startups. 3 of them have had exits. And now I am running my own sales leadership advisory business in my quote unquote spare time. But the fact of the matter is, Ronen, I love to help people and love to share mainly the screw ups and the mistakes that I've made over my nearly 30-year career with people that are up and coming, which makes me excited to be on your show to share some of my screw ups in the past. I'm trying not to use foul language because I know you guys are like, you keep it clean around here.
It's a family friendly show. We got lots of young kids tuning in to listen to Ronen and I talk.
Well, that's actually a good jumping point. Speaking of all the companies you've worked for and the exits, one question I'd love to hear from you about is like, which one of the companies on your illustrious resume makes you the most proud to have been a part of that journey?
Well, no question, ZipRecruiter. It was the largest accomplishment. It was the 3rd company that I'd been at that had an exit. Built the sales team from 0 salespeople to 550 salespeople. It was new accounts teams, existing accounts teams, enterprise sales teams, SDR teams, chat sales teams. Is a whole mishmash of teams. But I didn't do it myself. I had a lot of help from my friends, and I think one of the biggest learning lessons that young sales leaders need to remember is that you don't have all the answers. And one of your main goals should be to try and hire people that are better than yourselves, but hire better salespeople than you, hire better sales leaders. I'll give you the example, Ronen. When I built the enterprise sales team, I had never led an enterprise sales team before. So my first move was instead of trying to pretend that I knew everything, I wanted to hire people that knew more than me about enterprise selling and add my process-oriented way, the inside sales way of thinking to systematize enterprise selling. But I'm most proud of that because it was just this amazing combination, Ronen, of product market fit, timing, unbelievably talented individuals across the team, a great product, great timing, like just everything just coalesced in
all the pieces came together for you there.
Yeah. It was real lightning in a bottle. Yeah. It was real lightning in a bottle.
And, I don't even want to ask the question of, can you pick them like that? Because those are like, some of those are magical that will just happen. The market is right. The product is right for the market. The talent, though, that's a big one. What's a company without good talent? But one of the things I'm curious about, especially since you have such a rich history of experience and you've seen like major success that 99% of people will never see in their careers, but you have seen that dream that we all dream of, being the early employee at a company that goes gangbusters, huge. You've been there, scaled a team from 0 to 550. That's unbelievable. I'm curious, like, times are changing, or are they not changing? Like, tell us a little bit more. What do you think is changing right now in the landscape of sales and sales development, since maybe like one thing that you think is changing the most compared to what things were like then?
Well, I think there's 2 things. For sure, we are dealing with a flight to quality. In other words, doing more with less. I'm talking to some of these founders and they're cutting costs and they are striving to become cash flow positive. That is, of course, a very 2023, way of looking at things here. And I think that that's healthy because in the last, literally 2008, if you graduated from college after or around 2008, you don't know what I'm talking about because you've lived in the greatest economic expansion the United States has seen in God knows, how long. And so I think the biggest change is that it's change. The biggest change is that it's change, having to recognize, and I had to do this back when the Great Recession hit, it happened within months. It just went to shit in months. Okay. And I had to turn my whole sales team over in 12 months, implement a new sales methodology. So one of the things that hasn't changed, of course, is our ability to say, hey, look, what we did in 2020, what we did in 2021, that doesn't work. That doesn't work any longer. So, and I think that having a sales leader say, let's just throw caution to the wind and just hire, be the idiots at Zenefits and just hire hundreds and hundreds of salespeople. But they just figured, hey, revenue cures all. So let's just spend money to that. They're just a bunch of screw ups and that doesn't exist any longer. And so sales leaders now need to be far more fiscally responsible, more responsible with the money, which means they need to partner better with the people that they hate most, which is the CFO who's always saying no to them. They need to be a better steward of the company's money. Otherwise, they are not going to be in business. Yeah. Number two, I am absolutely committed to AI, and everyone's saying this. It's such a buzzword, and I truly mean this. How can we utilize these tools to do more with less? I'll give you an example. Again, it's not quite there yet, but I think we need to continue to work through this. Okay, there are these tools out there like Gong and Chorus and fill in the blanks with all your other conversation and analytic tools. You know what the problem though, Ronen, is? The problem is that I have more sales people per manager now than I did 12 months ago. Why? Because I'm cutting costs. Okay. Right. So my ability as a frontline manager, Ronen, to provide coaching to my sales reps becomes diluted. So how can I do that better? How can I do that better? How can I find tools that can ingest some of these calls and provide coaching to my sales reps? If we're not spending 20 and let's just go for another change here, by the way. And I hate to say this. I hate to say that this is a change. If your sales leaders aren't spending frontline sales managers aren't spending that 20, 25 hours a week on frontline coaching, like coaching activities with their reps, because you didn't have to. Well, you didn't have to over the last 12 years. It was, do a demo, spit up, offer a discount, deal close. Of course, I'm being facetious.
Was it that easy?
Right. Well, it's certainly easier than it is now. Right. And so this is where these frontline managers, they need to take responsibility. Instead of saying that goals are too high and whining and moaning about how the goals are too high, what can you do to improve conversion rates with your reps? Coaching. And if you can utilize some of these tools that can provide you intelligence at scale, I think you're cooking at gas. People need to lean into it for real and not just go, well, how do I comment better on people's LinkedIn posts using ChatGPT? That's just a bunch of crap.
Well, you bring up a really interesting point there, which is AI tools helping at different points of the sales process. And it's funny you brought up AI because, of course, we're going to ask you about AI. Come on. It's got to be something that is the hottest thing in all of tech, in tech in the broad strokes.
Yes.
But so you mentioned ways that can help with the sales process itself. I guess 2-part question here. Number one, do you think that a lot of the old school kind of brute force methods of outbound sales are going to go away? Is cold calling dead? And if yes or no, what kind of role do you see AI playing in sales development as a function as opposed to sales?
Yeah. No, great question. So I think about this a lot, actually. So where do I go with this here? Do I think that what your bifurcation question was like, do I think what? Like state the first part of that question, Kevin, again.
So the question is, what do you think is going to change about sales development and how, because you mentioned the way AI can be used with sales, which is like coaching sales reps. Yeah. Sales development, you can coach sales development reps, but what do you think is going to change about sales development in general with AI? Is cold calling going away?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that was going to be my quippy and response here. Like, if anybody tells you that cold calling is dead, try and figure out what they're selling you. Like they're selling you something. Okay.
I knew I liked you, KG.
Yeah. There you go. Look, if cold calling is dead, then I shouldn't be getting any more emails from that Nigerian prince that needs me to house their money for a while. Okay. Yeah. What does this mean? This means that cold calling works at a small percentage. Okay. Just like spam emails, somebody's going to get caught up in that. Okay. And so I don't think cold calling is dead. I think that the hyper personalization movement is a real thing. It's a real movement. And I think that this is where some of these tools can actually help shape ideas. In fact, I was just meeting with an elite enterprise rep yesterday for drinks, and I was asking her how she's doing her outbound. The amount of and she's like, I got 30 accounts and one of them is Apple, and Apple is massive and I can make my whole number on Apple. How do you prospect into Apple, And it's hyper personalization, lots of research that goes into like why I'm going to reach out to these, to these people. Now, what's the problem with that? The problem is that takes a lot of time. And let's just be honest with each other. Okay. Did I hire SDRs because they're so great at writing emails? The answer is no. Can I use a tool like ChatGPT or AI or Bard, whatever, can I use that tool to put an Iron Man supersuit around the SDRs? I've talked about that concept on several other platforms. That's how I view AI. It's an Iron Man supersuit around the SDR. So, to help make them better. Tony Stark has flaws. SDRs have flaws. Can we put the AI supersuit around them and make them better? So if I can train that tool on a number of pieces of information about the director of information technology for the X location of Apple, well, can I write something that is compelling using some of these tools and do it like, not take 30 minutes per email. Maybe it's 10 minutes per email by using these tools. So hyper personalization and using ChatGPT. I love what Will Allred is posting, from Lavender. Love the kinds of the data that he presents. Furthermore, let me just double down on this. If you don't have an operations team, make that higher. Make that higher. Kevin, it was Richard Harris and I were talking about this. If everyone's talking about doing more with less, then why aren't we making a RevOps hire?
Who's going to be the operator? Yeah, who's going to build it?
That is correct. Who's going to build it? Who's going to measure it? Who's going to measure it? If you still have your salespeople creating their own, or your SDRs creating their own cadences and outreach or sales loft or something, you're doing it wrong. So that would be another change that I would throw into there. This is where we need to really have strategy and not just sort of a haphazard approach.
For sure. And I love that analogy of the Iron Man suit here. I mean, I could tell you're a Marvel fan, but even if you're not, that's a great analogy, because what you're trying to do is give superpowers to these average mortals who can turn into superheroes with some assistance, which begs an interesting follow-up question to that. I have worked for that CRO who said point blank to me, go hire anyone from the street and stick them on the phones. They'll be fine. What do you mean your interview process evaluates certain skills and mindset and character traits? Like, so do you think that the Iron Man suit will make that statement more true, less true? What's your take on just going out, hiring a bunch of kids, stick them on the phone, give them some AI copywriting, generative AI thing? Where do you stand on that?
That's just effing lazy. I'm just trying not to like reach through the screen, like, cause this is you're going to really piss me off. Look, there's four legs to this stool. Okay. There's four legs to this stool. There's a great hiring process. There's a great onboarding and training process. There's a great coaching process, and there's a great performance management process. And we'd have to spend a whole nother podcast talking about each one of those legs of that stool. Okay.
Our people will find your people to book that one.
Fine. Yes. Great. Your people, my people. I love that. If you are still operating under this, let's just hire a bunch of kids off the street and see how they do, and give them Chat GPT. I'm sorry, that is going to fail tremendously. That means you literally have no strategy, and you don't think about those four legs of the stool that I just described, which is the onboarding and training. There's the coaching, there's performance management, and then of course there's the hiring process in and of itself. I'll just give you an example. I just hire somebody off the street, hand them Chat GPT, but they're not very computer literate. Okay. How good is that going to be? How good is the tool? The tool is only as good as like the data that you put into it. Okay.
Totally.
One of the things that I'd love to ask you guys back, by the way, since I consider you two the expert on outbounding, some of the experts on outbounding, can curiosity be taught?
On some level.
Can curiosity be taught?
On some level. But there's certainly innate curiosity, right? Some people come with a lot of curiosity, and then some people have been, I guess, trained over the years to not ask questions.
Yeah.
And so they've kind of lost that.
Right. So I think about like, okay, if I just hire somebody who's not curious at all, they're just not that curious at all, but I give them something that's AI driven, whatever thing du jour is AI driven, but they're not curious when like push comes to shove and they get on a call and they actually get somebody, they open their email and they get into a conversation. Okay. Are they just going to read the questions that you give them? But then they're not going to go level 2, level 3, level 4 types of questions with that prospect. That's just lame. It means you don't have a good hiring process, and you certainly don't have a good coaching process that goes along with that. So I don't think it's the solution to really put a finer point on that for your own. And I don't think it's as easy as, well, let's just go hire anybody off the street and then stick an AI super suit around them, and that's our solution. No, that's just freaking lazy.
Love that answer.
We couldn't agree more, because we preach people, process, and technology as a complete thought process around outbound sales, right? And folks say like, we have calls all the time. Ronen and I have calls all the time where people are like, "Nah, I just need people. I just need bodies." Well, what's the process? We'll figure it out. I'm not really worried about it. But they think that like the solution is to hire the sales rep, or they think that, you got to love them. All the sales platforms out there, they do sell their tech as the solution to the problem. And I've met people that have, expensive dialing tech, that have expensive sequencing tech, and they don't have people. They like don't have a team, but they're like, yeah, I got to see to this, and I use it sometimes, and I'm like, why? Like the tech without the right people, without a way to use the tech is just
100%.
Sitting there. So we feel bad 100%. For. I definitely just feel bad for a lot of folks out there that end up buying one piece of the puzzle and then sitting back saying, why don't I have the Mona Lisa?
I got into it with my previous boss at a company previously when we were discussing marketing automation, when that was sort of a newer thing. And I said, I mentioned Marketo, and he goes, why don't you just go buy Marketo? And I went, because buying the tool, but not having a strategy and not having the content to go into it and the people to like help us create all the stuff. It's like buying the tool, but I don't know, buy a buzzsaw, but I don't know how to use it.
Sure.
And there's no application and there's no reason. Like there's just a whole, it's like you're 100% right. People, process, technology, love that framework.
If you put a Lamborghini in my driveway, I guarantee you I'd burn the clutch in about 5 minutes. I don't know how to drive a supercar. I can barely drive a stick, barely. Like I could drive a stick in an emergency, but I'm also like, don't put me in a stick. I did it twice when I was 17. Well, KG, this has been great. We want to keep these podcasts as short and action-packed as we can, and we really, really appreciate you coming on. How can people learn from you, connect with you, get into your sphere?
Awesome. Thanks for asking. You can find me on LinkedIn, very, very active. It's just Kevin Gaither. So, LinkedIn/Kevin Gaither or whatever it is there. And you could find me at my website, InsideSalesExpert.com. That's singular, InsideSalesExpert.com. But just go to LinkedIn, type in Kevin Gaither. You'll be able to find me there. And there's a whole bunch of free downloads and things like that you can get from me there. So thanks for asking. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. We could also find you playing some average golf at a golf course.
Right? Average to not so bad. It's pretty. Anyway, I think I still owe you some money. Thanks for having me on the show and reminding me.
All right. Well, KG, thank you so much for joining the podcast. Everybody, stay tuned for next week's episode where we dive into more live cold calling, and we appreciate you.